My group decided to do a British crime film in the postmodern style. Guy Ritchie and his films Lock, Stock, Two Smoking Barrels and Snatched influenced us when making our British crime trailer, and was largely a reason we chose British crime over dystopian. We decided to make our film with a narrative very conventional to the British crime genre, which was largely based around money and theft. From doing research into the British crime genre, I was able to learn that the pace of the films vary a bit. Sometimes the film will feel quite slow and dialogue heavy, focusing on the characterisation, but then they would build pace and create tension for gunfights or other action scenes in the film. The films are set in very working class locations. For example, in Lock, Stock, Two Smoking Barrels, a lot of it is filmed in working class housing or estates, and also pubs based in London, which is a very typical location for British crime films to be filmed. The characters we see usually have Cockney accents and use multiple slang terms throughout the film. They are usually dressed in working class clothing, and it is also common to see them have working class jobs as well. For example, in Lock, Stock, the character Tom owns an off-licence, and in Snatch, the character Turkish is an unlicensed boxing promoter, which again is a very working class pastime. In terms of the narratives that we see in British crime films, it is usually based around some sort of criminal act. These acts usually involve theft, drugs, money, killings, and so on. The characters in the narratives tend to all be criminals, some antagonists, while others are portrayed as anti-heroes. These characters are criminals, but likeable when we root for them over the other criminals in the film. This is a postmodern technique used frequently in British crime. For example, in Snatch, there are two rival criminal gangs alongside the gypsy underclass group. It is also very conventional to see magazine names and ratings appear, either showing numbers from 1 to 10 or stars 1 to 5, giving the film credibility. A big name to see in relation to magazines in the trailers is Empire, which is a well-respected film magazine. Another convention as well is the title from the director of so on, a different film, which promotes both the director of these films and other films at the same time, as well as promoting the film itself. Other conventions are postmodern techniques such as time remapping, split screens, and the displaying of violent weapons and of drugs, which indicates genre.
From our research, we decided to create a film trailer using mainly Guy Ritchie films as inspiration, because we knew that we'd be able to use many postmodern filming techniques and editing techniques. We made our film conform to the British crime genre by having a narrative centred around a heist, but developed it by introducing a twist of one of the characters not knowing who had stolen the stolen money. Our main influences for our narrative were films like Snatch and Lock, Stock, Two Smoking Barrels. We wanted our film to be like these. These films had several narratives which congregate together towards the end of the film. Our film follows this same structure to pay homage to these Guy Ritchie films. We had 5 characters in our film with names that either link to real-life British criminals, like The Craze, and classic British crime films like The Italian Job. We thought this would be a great way of using intertextuality in our trailer to relate our film to postmodernism. As British crime films, all the characters would be anti-heroes, either good or bad criminals. This format is followed in every single British crime film, so we thought we would do the same. High art style freeze frames have been used throughout films like Snatch, and we wanted to emulate this in our own film in order to pay homage to it. The freeze frames have been used in many postmodern films to help introduce the characters to the audience. We did the same in our trailer by using Adobe Photoshop to edit freeze frames that we got from Adobe Premiere. We not only had the characters' names on these freeze frames, but also a symbol to highlight their role within the heist group. For example, a star to show being a general or the leader. We also included voiceover where it helped give more detail surrounding the characters and narratives within our film. Voiceover is seen in many postmodern films, especially crime films such as Alfie, as it gives more knowledge to the audience by breaking the fourth wall. We decided to shoot our film around the back streets of Brighton as they looked gritty and dirty, which allowed our film to look more like a rough British crime film. We also used costumes and props related to the genre like hoodies, masks and guns. These elements would be seen in the trailer and could easily be identified by the audience to associate them with British crime. We wanted to start off the trailer with the end shot of our film, to let the audience raise questions about the situation. The aerial shot shows 3 characters in a standoff. This is a very postmodern technique by having a non-linear structure to our film. For filming, we wanted to incorporate movement into our shots. By tracking and rotating shots, we could use this to disorientate the audience, and we mainly used a wheelchair to complete many of these shots. By disorientating the audience, it would help to relate the characters' emotions or help them show what is a key theme of our film. The repeated use of the chair shot tries to emphasise the importance of this object and helps the audience determine that this is a key theme of our film. I also use editing to give our shots movement by time mapping. I matched the scratching of a record within the music to the chair rotating. This gave a new dynamic to the shot. Although it did not add much in terms of narrative, it does help the audience identify the postmodern elements within our British crime film. For our interrogation scene, we decided to only use a phone light as it gave off a very gloomy effect. This added the feeling of isolation and it added to the seedy background setting, which is typical of a British crime film. By having one single light in the character, it automatically draws the audience attention to it. In terms of music, we use soundtracks, the first being contrapuntal to the on-screen action, as it's very light-hearted and upbeat. This is a very postmodern thing to do, as the music does not conform with the usual notion that music supports the action. Our second soundtrack, however, does keep pace with the on-screen action, and I edited the beats of the music to the on-screen action in order to make our trailer seem more professional. Matching the music became very easy when I added the promotional titles and the story titles. Using these is conventional of trailers as a whole. By adding these, it helps the audience to get a better feel for the film and shows them what critics think about the film and could sway the audience member into watching it, if it has good reviews, of course. The titles also included text which completely simplified the narrative of our film, which can clearly show the basic story to the audience, and this could also sway them into watching it.
When designing our posters and magazine covers, we made sure that our ancillary products were instantly relatable to the trailer. We did this by using the same fonts and styles as the freeze frames, as they were quite unique to our film. The main colours that featured were red, black and white. These colours are also very dominant in our ancillary products. The freeze frames are a postmodern high art style, as seen in Snatch, and we wanted this to translate into the ancillary products too. We were quite heavily inspired by the printed stencil-style freeze frames featured in Snatch. This is evident in our own freeze frames and our ancillary products. We were also inspired by the style of spaghetti westerns, relating the heist narrative and showdown to a western standoff, and the example of intertextuality. This is most evident in our posters, as a couple of the designs are in the style of an old western wanted poster. The font that we used throughout our ancillary products and in our trailer is also in a western style. Our magazine covers were made to look like it was made by Empire. We did this through using similar fonts, colours and layouts, whilst including our film's stylistic elements such as the mask prop. A key feature of our ancillary products is the Guy Fawkes mask. This relates to our film/trailer, as our protagonists wear it in the heist. We chose this mask to pay homage to the iconic mask in V for Vendetta, which is quite postmodern. One of the posters features multiple weapons, drugs and money stacks. This relates to the theme of the film, as these are common iconography in crime films. One of the other posters contains only 3 colours, red, black and white. This is very typical of the crime genre, as these are the colours that are seen most in crime film posters. The red is most likely used to connote blood and aggression. Overall, I feel that we have created a coherent marketing campaign that clearly and conventionally conveyed the genre.